Mary Earps, welcome to the Sports Agents.
Thank you. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
And also, you just revealed a little bit nervous because, as you put it, you have put it all out there in your book, All In.
I'm petrified. I think I've realised that actually I've really put my heart and soul out there in this book. And that's really quite difficult because if people read it and they don't like it, then they really don't like who I am at all. So that's going to be, quite challenging.
So why now? Why do it now?
I think it's a bit unusual in the sense of I know that probably current players don't really write books. I've been approached quite a few times to do books, and I never felt like it was the right moment of maybe I didn't feel like I'd achieved enough in my career or there was enough to talk about in that sense. Whereas now it just felt like a good moment to kind of discuss certain things and talk about things that I've never really spoke on.
Because I don't want to, because I know you're nervous about this because suddenly you realise you're going to have to talk about the book. But It's really, there's loads of stuff in there that we could really, really delve into because it's fascinating. And we do a lot of these with people who've done books, but they're normally at the other end of their career. Like we had Boris Becker on, didn't we, Gabby, who basically said to us, I don't want to talk about tennis. I want to talk about everything that's gone wrong, basically. It's like, oh, my God. But Boris is kind of edging towards 60 and isn't going to be in the thick of a team sport anymore. And you still are, I suppose.
I feel like I'm edging towards 60 with things that I've gone through. I don't know. You know what? It felt like a really good moment. I don't know whether I'll come to think otherwise, but to me it felt like my entire, career or brand has obviously become about me being unapologetically myself. It's been about me. People seem to appreciate the fact that I speak my truth. Mm-hmm. Whether they agree with it or not is up to them. Like everybody's got different ideals and values and principles. And so when I got asked to do it on this occasion, I thought, well, actually, I think this could really help people. And hopefully it's a point of inspiration for somebody out there.
Then we learn a lot about you. We learn a lot about your motivations. We learn a lot about your childhood, the young Mary and what drove her, and that same drive that seems every day to motivate you to get up and want to be better.
Right.
But there is one issue in this book,
I
think, that everybody will want to leaf through straight away to find out the answer to. And that pertains to what happened at the end of your England career.
Yeah.
And they are fascinating chapters. So let's go back to your first meetings with Serena Wiegman, because it seems that there was an instant connection. And as you put it, you could really open up and be yourself with her.
Definitely. I think I met Serena at a really good time in my career. I think that I can't speak highly enough for what I feel the bond that we had and still have in a lot of ways. I feel like people, delve into that a lot about, what is it like now? And I think that I do look at it as a bit of, you're not going to agree with people all the time and you're going to ebb and flow in relationships. That's life, that's relationships. But again, I think we've got so many fond memories. And I go back to that time thinking about Southampton in that hotel where I'd just been brought back into the England squad. And I remember that conversation that we shared. And for me, it was such a beautiful moment. And I think she met me at a time where I was learning to be honest and vulnerable and authentic. And I think that authenticity has got me to where I am now.
You weren't a whippersnapper. You've been knocking on the door for England for a while. You'd missed out on crucial squads under Philip Neville.
Yep.
And, this was a real turning point in your career for her to choose you as her number one.
Absolutely. It was huge. I think I'd obviously been out the system pretty much 2 years to the day when I met her, and thought my England days were long gone. And now we obviously can look back a few years later with incredible memories and trophies in the cabinet and a lot of fantastic times together.
So was it her body language? Was it how she spoke to you? I mean, you say in the book, you'd known her 2 minutes and you'd already been more vulnerable with her than with any other coach. So what did she do to bring out your vulnerability? And actually, what did you say back to her that you considered was vulnerable?
I think it was the the moment as well where I was vulnerable, where I'd probably maybe not been before in my career. But I felt there was a real empathy there, a real desire to actually ask because she cared. And I think that was unusual for me. Like, normally, like when you say, how are you? And you feel like it's just small talk and, get into the nitty gritty of football. I feel like she asked me, kind of, where have you been? And she genuinely was concerned almost of like, what has happened? Why? And I just answered honestly, like, I don't really know. And we had a really raw and honest conversation where I think we both got a little bit emotional. And I'd never experienced that before, where a manager had shown me their vulnerability too. And
then we have to kind of skip through a little bit what we know happened next in terms of the Euros, because actually, you were a central character in that Euros. I mean, I still have this image of you running across the desk at the press conference afterwards, leading the charge there, and then obviously an incredible experience for you at the World Cup. And then back in the spring, it all came to us to a sudden end.
Yeah.
And this book answers a lot of those questions.
Yeah,
what was going on behind the scenes? Why did Mary Earps decide that she didn't want to be part of this squad anymore? A squad that would eventually go on and win another Euros. That was giving up a lot. And as she says to you in the book, she asked you to stay, didn't she, when she told you weren't going to be number one?
Yeah, I think it was more complicated and there was a bigger build-up than what people realised. And I think that hopefully is what people can get from the book, is a lot of, not information and inside information like that, but an understanding of where I was coming from and what I was experiencing. And I think that that's a really also key part of the book, is everybody experiences things differently. Doesn't mean, I'm coming out, I'm not saying Serena's wrong and I'm right, or I'm wrong and Serena's right. What I'm saying is that we both had valid experiences. And I think that we did disagree towards the end about what we were experiencing, and I think that's okay. I think that...
Is it okay for her to choose somebody else to be her number one?
Oh, absolutely. I think that Serena made her decision. I think there was a lot going on behind the scenes, kind of...
Tell us about that.
I think there was, a misalignment of values at different points. And I felt that the best decision for everyone, really, was the decision to step away. And it was immensely difficult. It was something that tortured me for a long time. Oh gosh, wobble.
Yeah.
But it was hard. And I think it was hard because I chose not to speak about it. I chose to let people make their own mind up and kind of keep my bit to the side. You know what I mean? Like that, I didn't want it to become a spectacle. I knew it was inevitable because, respectfully, I'd had amazing memories with England and it was an incredible time. But sometimes the right things are the hardest things, and that doesn't make them wrong,
I mean, there are about 3 or 4 things there, Mary. No. But it's one seeing how emotional you are, even then going back to it. But then your decision not to talk about it at the time, which is, I'm sure you're aware, then leads to this perception: Mary's been dropped and has thrown her toys out the pram.
Yeah, that was hard. That was hard, I think, to see that and experience that, but mostly for my family and friends to experience that, because I personally don't feel that that's what my character is at all. But ultimately, people will think what they would like to think, and that's okay. Like, I'm not here to make everybody like me. That's not my MO. I think I want to genuinely share what I was feeling and experiencing. And I think, for me, I think it was a really courageous decision to do what I did. I'm not saying it should be praised and admired or anything, but I think that it wasn't an easy thing to do. And just because you read things in the newspaper or assume things, I think that's hard about being a big personality sometimes.
Because if you then go back to and obviously, I don't think you would have wanted to say this at the time, because it would have destabilised the whole of England. Not the whole of England, the whole of the England squad, rather.
Sorry, I'm not that important, unfortunately.
Got a bit dramatic there. Sorry about that. But because you write in the book, the goalkeeper dynamic had been too unhealthy for too long. Relations in the goalkeeper group were dire.
Yeah.
So, A, what does that mean? B, how much are you responsible for that as arguably the leader of that goalkeeping group before Serena made this decision?
Oh, chappers, that's a tough one. I think that I am absolutely responsible for my part that I play in that goalkeeper union. And I think one of the things that I experienced and speak about a lot in the book is it's hard to be a goalkeeper coming through, because you have to, when you're at a young age, you have to boss people around a little bit, and that can create a difficult dynamic, especially when you're young or you're not experienced and you're not experienced in these environments. And so for sure, I take a lot of responsibility for that, and I do everywhere that I go. One of the big things that I try and create is a healthy dynamic where we can all take the mick out of each other. There's no hierarchy, regardless of whether I'm number one or whatever. But I think sometimes everyone has a different idea of what team values look like, and you just have to accept that. That's sometimes work and football and life. And I think there was a misalignment, and it happened for a long time. Don't get me wrong, this was not something that came up just when I wasn't playing, but I think it was something I navigated for a long time, and it was difficult.
And this was specifically with Hannah Hampton?
I mean, I don't want to talk about people specifically and get down that route, because I think that then comes negative, and I think Hannah is extremely talented and had a great summer, and I don't want it to...
But she did at one point leave the group because of behavioural
she did.
issues.
Yeah, and obviously that was kind of reported, and I think, that was a consequence of things that happened at the Euros. But ultimately, I think that's sometimes where it gets to, where I felt the healthier thing for everybody was to step aside. And I'm so glad that, for example, Kiara got to go, Anna Morehouse went, and they got to experience what I'd also experienced. And that gave me a great amount of joy to see that as well, great amount of fulfillment to see that.
Did it really? Did it? Because knowing how passionate you were about it, knowing the success that you had, did you not sit there during the Euros thinking, bloody hell?
Honestly.
Genuinely,
I'll tell you
Mary.
honestly, the group stages I found like a walk in the park. I went out and watched them. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And
you went as a fan?
I went as a fan. I saw the girls afterwards, and I was nervous going. Because, I mean, you can tell I'm nervous. This is hard to, I'm bearing my soul, and people aren't going to like some of it, and I accept that. But I went, and I genuinely had a great time. I love watching them, and I know the girls personally, and I feel like I've grown up a lot with them, and so for me it was like, I see them more than my own family. So genuinely, I love the knockout games. I'll be honest with you, 100%. I was sat at home and I watched them, and they were more difficult to watch in terms of like, I'd love to inflict myself on this game, but that's because I'm a competitor. But I also knew
when it goes out to a shootout,
exactly,
Sweden.
Like that, relish those moments, but there was genuinely no part of me that didn't feel like this was exactly how it was meant to be. And I think the girls went on and won. They did a fantastic job, and I get to see that from a different angle now of like what they do for the nation and continue to do for English women's football, but also around the world, and also English sports as a whole. Like,
you've been very supportive of the Red Roses.
I think what I learned big time from the Euros and coming out of the craziness of the World Cup, and being able to separate myself, go to Paris and separate myself and see the impact from the outside in, I realised what synergy there could be across, and I really want to show up for the cricket as well. I've been to the netball, the rugby. I want to try and get across as many English sports as possible and do what I can to help them. And we have such similar journeys and obstacles, but genuinely to watch that from the outside and see how the Lionesses have led the way and continue to lead the way.
During that final, did you believe that they could go on and win? Because obviously Spain they were so dominant, Spain, weren't they? Within the 90 minutes.
They were, but England's different. I don't know
What is it? Tell us, because next summer we'll all be hoping that England's men can show something of that incredible way of getting out of, situations where you think they're up against it and they're never going to, their backs are against the wall. And the Lionesses just find a way. So what is that? What is in the DNA there?
I don't know on the men's side because I've not been in that environment, but the women's side, it's hard to explain, like a tenacity. Just find a way to win. Playing good, playing bad, come together. Like, I think that for me is what stood out. Was I think the France game, it looked to me from the outside like that really gave everyone the kick to be like, no, come on, let's get this together. And I thought from there was a spirit, and there was, I felt they would be, I mean, I knew they would be hard to beat going into the tournament. I said months in advance, we're 100% going to win. You know, that's what I texted Alessia and Tooney when the France game happened. Guys, one game, you're going to win this tournament. It doesn't matter. No one's going to care about the first game when you've won. And I think that for me, it was clear. It was clear, the talent, I don't know, relentlessness about it. You know, I don't really know if I'm explaining that well, but for me, it felt like
it's hard
something.
to describe that. It's an intangible thing, but there is this, you know, the saying, obviously, or the moniker that keeps kind of being attached to Serena, you know, kind of, you know, in Serena we believe. And, you know, there were times throughout that tournament that she tested that belief, didn't she? You know?
It was hard. It was very hard. I've experienced it as a fan, and I'm thinking, oh my God, guys, like, come on, we need a goal. Let's go. Like, but then, you know, Chloe would pop up, or Michelle would pop up, and with a goal, and you think, yeah, here we go, it's on.
What difference, going on to a slightly different subject, what difference has moving abroad and moving to Paris made to you personally and professionally?
Professionally, I think it's given me a different style of training, a completely different training stimulus, amazing facilities.
Better than they were at United.
Yeah, the facilities are better at PSG. You know, I think that obviously Carrington now is going through a big development change. I know on the men's side they've spent a lot of money, and I'm hoping that will come over to the women's side as well for them. But yeah, I think that's what stood out to me at that point in my career when I was choosing what to do. Was there was a setup where I felt like I could look after my mind and body in a really good way, and that's obviously what I'm trying to do. Training really hard. Learning, you know, different skills. I think it's
French?
Added something to. Oh, it's getting there. It's tough. And then personally, I think it's given me a good. I don't want to say balance in my life, because I don't think I have any balance in my life. I work far too hard.
I was going to say something that comes through the book is that you. I mean, all in as a child. Once football bit you as a bug.
Yeah.
That was it.
Obsessed.
Obsessed. Completely obsessed.
Obsessed, consumes my every thought and feeling, and I'll beat myself up. Like, I'll be thinking about this interview, for example, and I'll think, oh, I didn't answer that well, and I've not done myself justice there, and I'm opening myself up to criticism there. It's just this constant, like, I need to be better. And I don't like to say I need to be perfect, because I know perfect doesn't exist, but I need to be like 99% perfect in everything that I do.
You went through something in lockdown that was close to a breakdown in terms of your mental health, and found yourself literally on the floor.
Yeah.
And you were drinking more alcohol than you should have done. Mm-hmm. You were not looking after your body as an athlete. That was an experience that you referred back to in the book later, saying, I didn't want to be on the floor again. Yeah. So describing yourself as you have just done there, as somebody who can be consumed by a desire to be the very, very, very best. How did that experience help you to deal with that, and to shut your eyes at night and not beat yourself up?
Yeah, I think I didn't recognise myself for the longest time. It felt like all the things that used to feel familiar just didn't make sense anymore. And I think that when you go through something like that, I think as many people do, if not all of us do, at different stages in our life, you never wish that on yourself again. You realise what life truly is. And I think as you get older, and, you know, I had a call even a couple of days ago that, you know, someone I worked with at Manchester United had fallen suddenly ill and unfortunately passed away yesterday. And it's just, life is so short, and it's too short to not be anything but happy, not, you know, to beat yourself up for things, to be unkind to yourself. And it's easy to say, but I think when that darkness grabs you, I think you have a new appreciation for what's really important in life. And I think that's what I try to remember now in these difficult moments, like in the summer when, you know, every man and his dog, it felt like, were saying unpleasant things, is, you know, who am I as a person? Can I look at myself in the mirror every day? Do I feel I've done everything I can to be the best version of myself? And if the answer's yes, then I'm okay with that. All you can do is everything with the best intentions. You can't control how people are going to perceive you or interpret you. And you can't control the outcome. I think I was so outcome driven pre that. I was obsessed with, I need to do this and I need to do this by this age. And I was just beating myself up constantly for falling short. And now I try to be more obsessed with the process rather than what the result is.
Still obsessed.
Still obsessed, but
but it sounds like you are a little. It sounds like even what you said there about you'll leave this interview and think you could have answered this better or done that better. It sounds like
I'm mad that I got emotional. I'm upset with myself.
Why? Why?
You poured your heart into this book, Mary.
Yeah, I have.
Why are you annoyed at getting, like genuinely, why are you annoyed at getting emotional? Because I tell my kids all the time that crying is the best, at times is the best thing. Emotion is the best thing.
She just doesn't want to do it in front of us.
Yeah, the cameras, the lights.
So, trust me, I reduce a lot of people to tears at times. But is that, do you think that's the sportswoman in you? Is that the sort of game face in you?
Is it a weakness to show that emotion?
Maybe. I definitely don't think it's a weak. I don't think vulnerability is weakness. I think vulnerability is strength, and I hope that comes out in the book. But I think I'm also scarred by different things I've experienced over the time, and I take this crazy life and career path that I've had over the last few years with such great responsibility. And I have a lot of people who are looking to me to lead the way in certain things, or are looking at me to behave in the right way. It's like like the eldest.
Well, that.
So who do you feel
leadership? Sorry, Chappers.
Yeah, I was just going to say, who do you feel that responsibility towards? Do you feel it towards yourself, your family? Do you feel it towards my 11-year-old daughter who's never met you but plays football 3 times a week? Is it all of them? Yeah,
all of it. I think, I do think I've found, that it's important that it's okay to admit, like, what, I need to be proud of myself. I need to conduct myself in the way that I want to live my life. But I think it's mostly more for like friends, family, and for the incredible amount of people that have supported me over particularly the last few years, but people who followed me right from the beginning. I feel like I owe them my life in a way of like, people have given me more than I could ever imagine. I could never have imagined this career that I've had. And there's bits that I change and maybe wish for a little bit different, but
of course,
I'm so privileged. What an incredible life.
Incredible. And you touched on your leadership there and how important it is to you to keep leading by example. And what happened during the World Cup with the shirts, the goalkeeping shirts with Nike, with, you stepping up, that kind of the symbolism of you saving that penalty when the first time you'd ever played in goal as a kid, you'd saved a penalty, and that kind of full circle moment almost that led the nation to kind of elevate you actually on, as we do with our sporting heroes, and put you on a platform, and because you became so symbolic, but also kind of a figurehead for the change that was happening there with a global sports brand. I think there's a moment in the book where Serena tries to persuade you to stay, and I read through her comments that she was almost worried about your legacy.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you not worry about that everything that you'd built up in those years since the World Cup could have been tarnished?
In the moment, I'll be honest, not really so much, because I think I was naive to a little bit of, I have always been this way. I know this is the decision. Every bit of information that I've taken to get to this point is pointing me in the same direction. And even when I've gone backwards and forwards on it, or new information, it's still drawn me to this decision, and I have to go with what I think is the right thing. And I think the way it worked out, I then was able to go on, have medical treatment, do what I needed to do in the summer, take care of myself mentally and physically. The girls went on and won a tournament. Serena went on and won her 3rd consecutive Euros. It worked out like fantastically well for everybody. I think, I think the team were great. I think Hannah did a good job. I think that it all worked out. And I think that sometimes, I didn't expect some of what I got, but I think I was I think that's why I'm nervous about it now, because I know what came, and I know that the untruths that were spun, and I'm conscious that could happen again. And I really do feel like if people don't see the vulnerability in what I'm doing, and they don't appreciate the fact that I've been ugly honest at times and revealed more than what a lot of people would care
as
to
Mark
reveal.
said at the beginning of the interview, during a career that is still ongoing.
If people don't appreciate that and understand that, then this could go west very, very quickly. But I felt at the time when Serena and Darren were both saying those things to me, that I was like, I understand all that, but you know, when it's like almost like the truth and the facts, that is what counts. We can't get swayed by emotion and the difficulty of the decision. And it would have been easier for me to continue, say nothing, carry on, and get another winner's medal and collect, you know, another accolade and continue. But I really felt that it was the right, and that's what I guess my thing is, if I didn't feel that it was absolutely the right thing to do, why would I put myself through that?
In general, if it just taking away people's thoughts about your decision to step away, but aside from that, you know, you talk in the book again about worrying about being in the supermarket and people looking at you up and down, recognising you, and then worrying whether they're going to say something nice or tear you apart. And you mentioned it several times, you know, people have their own opinions of you. But aside from that decision, which some people will criticise and some people won't, aren't people 99% genuine, I mean, in person, nice to you?
I think I'm very lucky with the support that I have. Yeah, I've had some negative experiences, definitely.
Right.
And, you know, I think I have had criticism of the decision, but I also felt an incredible amount of love for the decision. I think a lot of people did see it for what it was, or what my intention was. And I am incredibly grateful for that. But of course I do have negative experiences where people, you know, even since the decision, want to tell me to my face what they think of me. And that is, of course, is difficult sometimes. Contract
they do,
extension.
do they? They do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, not sometimes after a drink, or
right.
like relatives of people. And I'm like, I'm just going to try and excuse myself from this situation. And sometimes I don't think people mean for things to come out the way that they do. I think it just comes out quite sharp, and you think, probably wasn't the most sensitive thing to say there, but okay.
No.
We move on.
we just touched very briefly on Manchester United, but if we could just have a minute on that, because obviously you talk about contracts, which is something that has been kind of widely discussed about Manchester United's women not offering contracts as quickly and not keeping players happy, big players happy. What was the dynamic and the culture like for you at the end there?
I think I spent 5 years at Manchester United. Incredible memories. And the girls are unbelievable. The staff that I work with, unbelievable. I think that the girls have continued to do exceptionally well. Exceptionally well. I think it's a shame how some things happen behind the scenes. And I think my truth of that was I was a big character, big player, but also a big leader, and in a relatively young team. And I felt I was having to push a lot behind the scenes and spend a lot of energy on conversations, which I think in the end I think I was tired of fighting the same fight a little bit without
Did that get worse when Sir Jim Ratcliffe came in? Did you notice yourself having to fight more?
I think it was different because then staff started to change. So people I had relationships with for a long time, and, you know, I was meeting executives for breakfast, and I felt I had a good relationship there, and we had good conversation, and I did feel like they listened to me. I don't think the action was always there, which was a shame. And sometimes women's football is like that. You're bound by budgets and people's opinions, and if people value certain things. And
did they value their women's team?
I think they should value it more. And I think that the girls, the job that they do is unbelievable. The togetherness there is special. Like, I think unlike what you'd find in honestly most teams, I think it's the most together team I've ever been a part of. Their like energy and spirit is unbelievable, and they continue to compete and do a great job regardless of what happens.
I think they don't, as a team, and Mark as well, to be honest, who was under pressure at times with the fan base at United, they don't get anywhere near the credit they deserve compared to the other so-called big three in the WSL because of sometimes the circumstances they're working under. They don't get anywhere near the same amount of credit as the other three.
No, I don't think they do get the credit they deserve sometimes. I really don't. I think obviously the fan base is incredibly passionate and like follow their team home and away like relentlessly. Like the noise, like even there was games where we were away from home and it felt like a home game. Like it's incredible, the energy around the club. But I think that they go, because of certain things or the way different clubs invest more and spend more in transfer windows, they often go under the radar. But you look at the results that they get, it's consistent. You can't disagree with it.
Mary, I'm being told our time with you.
Oh, I'm
is
boring
up.
everyone.
Yes.
Oh, well then, final question then, if our time is up. So when
I had one, but go
Oh,
on.
fight over me.
So, right,
I love it.
one each. When you get in the car after this, then and sit with your team, how do you analyse this? And are you ready then for? Are you ready to promote this?
I don't know if I am.
Okay.
I think writing it was actually really quite therapeutic for me. I think it helped me process a lot of things that had happened that I'm still maybe a bit emotional about and still processing. But I think it really helped me get to quite a positive mindset much quicker than I would have done in truth. Whether I'm ready to promote it and answer all the questions on it, I don't know. I guess I'm at the, I've just got to wait and see and find out, I suppose.
It's always, whether or not you have as huge stories as you have to share, it's a vulnerable moment, isn't it? To open your thoughts, your feelings and your life up. And that's what I was just about to ask at the end. Quite a surprising end almost to the book is you talking about, and you mentioned it there, medical procedures in the summer and having fertility treatment effectively, and which actually that was quite an uplifting way to kind of finish, because Mary is a woman. Mary is a woman who has a future beyond football. That's kind of what that said to me, and that felt like a really lovely way to end and to share something so personal.
Yeah, thank you. I think we don't talk about it enough. We don't talk about, not everybody wants to be a mum, and that's fine. It's each to their own, how everyone wants to live their life. For me, it's like, if football is my purpose, like I do feel like my reason for being on the planet is to, have kids, have a family, and hopefully leave my part on the world and, bring good kids and people into the world. Maybe we'll see if they turn out to be little, I don't know if I can swear on this podcast, but little crap bags, then you can tell me differently. But it's obviously difficult. You put your body through a lot, and it was something, again, that was, it's part of the decision. It was a very all-rounded decision, and I was able to go through a fertility treatment, which hopefully I'll be able to look back on and feel really glad that I did whenever I'm ready, a few years' time, I don't know, whenever I'm ready to stop, because I don't know how women come back. It's absolutely incredible. I don't understand it.
Not many come back in football, do they?
And it's happening more and more, which is amazing, and it needs to, but I don't know how people do it. To put your body through that and then come back and be athletic. Even women in day-to-day life, I'm like, how do you even...
How do you do the juggle?
Yeah, how do you do it? It's amazing. And hopefully that's a wonderful problem I'll have one day.
I've never heard the word crap. I mean, that was a beautiful speech, but I've never heard the word crap bags before.
I think she was going to say something.
I was going to say something else, but I wasn't sure.
I know. I take pride in knowing the majority of phrases and swear words, but I've never heard crap bags. Well done.
Thank you.
And I'm sure they won't be. But Mary, thank you so much. I feel like we've kind of, slightly kind of dipped you in the water here for the immersion of selling this book and talking about this book over the next month or so, which will be an interesting experience for you. But thank you so much for coming on The Sports Agents.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
The Sports Agents
with Gabby Logan and Mark Chapman.